by the worst channel you have ever seen, and it's gonna be what if Vegeta died instead of Raditz. So basically, the way this works is during the start of Dragon Ball Z, when Goku and Piccolo are working together to kill Raditz, Goku actually listens to what Raditz is saying and lets him go. Where Raditz essentially tells Goku that he's gonna leave Earth or he's gonna reform. And Goku listens this time and he lets him go. But it's too late and he still gets shot through with a special beam cannon. So Goku still dies like in canon. Also, Piccolo probably did this on purpose because he wanted to kill Goku as revenge for the World Martial Arts Tournament a few years earlier, anyways. So Goku still dies, and his journey is basically the same as it was in canon up until he comes back to life to fight Nappa and Vegeta. But this also means that Raditz is still alive, so he's gonna be on a journey of reform, essentially, or training to fight back against Vegeta and Nappa, which he has kind of wanted to do for a long time because of how much they looked down upon and bullied him, essentially, for being a low class warrior. So this leads to Raditz telling everybody essentially about the Saiyans and Vegeta and Nappa's whole situation, and that they'll probably be coming to Earth. So this means that Raditz is likely gonna start training with the Z fighters to actually prepare for the coming invasion, I guess you could say. So this leads to Raditz training with them, maybe even having the special gravity chamber built earlier on because his ship, I think, is still intact. So he could just show Bulma the ship and they could have that mechanism built as a larger thing, which is what they ended up doing in canon a bit later on. But this would mean that with the gravity chambers, they can train earlier, which would mean they'd be stronger by the time that Nappa and Vegeta arrive, which means that they would likely be a little bit stronger and pose a little bit more of a threat, but they'd still lose in the end. They could either have this happen, or we could have Raditz leave Earth and just come back when the fight happens. So we have the fight goes basically the same up until around when Chiaotzu gets killed, and or when he dies, basically. Then we have Raditz join the fight if he's done some extra training on his own out in space, or he's been training with the gravity chamber with the rest of the Z fighters. He still gets defeated. He's still not powerful enough to defeat Nappa, even with the rest of them helping, like Piccolo, for example. So they all still lose, and Goku comes back just in time to watch his brother get murdered right in front of him, which is very upsetting to him, of course, given that Raditz over this time period has kind of somewhat reformed. It's like a the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation, kind of, because he obviously resents Vegeta and Nappa anyways, but he's on the journey of reform, essentially. So Goku hearing about this and seeing it from the other world is very upset by this, and so this probably gives him a rage boost that would make it even easier for him to kill Nappa. So he kills him even quicker than he did in canon, and he may even be able to defeat Vegeta a little bit easier than in canon. I don't think he'd be able to reach Super Saiyan at this point because I feel like he'd be too weak at this point, or he might not even have enough emotional attachment to Raditz to trigger something like that, because it took Krillin dying, who's been his friend since childhood. So I don't know. Maybe no Super Saiyan yet. We'll see if that still happens later on in at Namek, maybe even. But yeah, basically Vegeta ends up getting either killed by Goku, or he ends up being killed by Krillin, and Goku just doesn't come in time to stop Krillin, or he just doesn't want to stop Krillin. So Vegeta's dead. That also means that he doesn't go back to the Frieza Force, so he doesn't end up going to Namek, and that means that I think Frieza never ends up finding out about the Dragon Balls, which is good for the Z Fighters because it's smooth sailing until Namek. Essentially, they just go to Namek, the surviving ones, obviously. Um, and they end up getting the Dragon Balls, making their wishes. Everybody's revived, not Vegeta though, of course. And they likely end up having their potentials unlocked, which would make them all stronger. That may even be enough for Goku to unlock Super Saiyan, potentially. Or it could be that he unlocks a similar form to what Gohan did during the Buu Saga. So that could be a bit different, and we probably don't have Piccolo fusing with Nail in this scenario because he wouldn't need to. There's no like conflict happening. Nail's not gonna die, um, and neither is Piccolo. So that would likely weaken Piccolo a little bit, but I think the boost that he'd get from having his potential unlocked would kind of even that whole thing out. So yeah, they end up getting back to Earth safely. They train in the gravity chamber. They all get stronger, and Goku doesn't end up learning instant transmission because he doesn't actually need to go to that planet that he did uh, as like a contingency on the way there, as like a last resort. So no instant transmission for Goku in this timeline, but that's okay. They end up getting back to Earth, and Trunks shows up eventually, and he realizes that he doesn't really exist in this timeline because his dad is dead. So that's a bit different. That's a bit shocking for Trunks. He gives Goku the heart medicine anyways, but I don't think he'd need it in this timeline because he doesn't go to the planet. So he probably doesn't get infected with whatever heart disease he did get infected with in canon, if that is how he got it. But anyways, the rest of the Android saga goes mostly the same until the point when the actual fight with the android starts. And so the Z fighters, they end up having their training arc essentially in anticipation for Android 17 and 18 to show up. But anyways, they end up having the same androids showing up that ended up showing up in canon. So they fight them, they kill them. I think likely it would probably be easier actually to kill the androids. They probably kill them quicker. I mean 17 and 18 in this scenario, and maybe even 16, because hard-headed Vegeta is not here. So yeah, Raditz would probably have more camaraderie with Goku at this point, given they are brothers, and they're both of low class, so neither of them really looks down upon the other for the most part, although Raditz did at the start, but now he's been kind of impressed enough by Goku, so he doesn't really have that situation. He's also changed his moral compass. But yeah, anyways, we have this Android saga ending early because they end up killing the androids early, and Goku's never sick. So yeah, by the time Cell arrives, he has no one to fuse with, so they just kill him quickly. And they may even end up befriending Android 16 if they haven't destroyed him already. They probably end up befriending him, and he becomes one of the Z fighters as well. And he might even have a friendship with Raditz or all of them in general. So you might have a situation where Raditz sees Android 16 and he's like, okay, wait, let's save this guy because he's been reformed, and this shows his reform to everybody, and that even makes his relationship with the rest of the Z fighters even better, and it might even lead to him and Bulma potentially having a relationship similar to what Vegeta and Bulma did in canon that could have been forming since the same saga in this timeline. So we still have Trunks getting born. It's just a different version of Trunks. We have him being the son of Raditz instead of Vegeta. But overall, it's basically the same. And then that whole saga is over essentially. No one dies because they ended up killing Cell and the androids early on before they could actually cause any real damage. So no dead Goku. Also, no Super Saiyan 2 at this point, probably, but they still end up going into the time chamber to train because Trunks from the future comes back and he realizes, well, the problem's solved, but you should still probably train to prepare for anything in the future. So they end up training. They go in the hyperbolic time chamber, most likely, and they still probably do unlock Super Saiyan 2 if they've already had Super Saiyan unlocked during Namek. So or even during the Saiyan saga. So we have Super Saiyan 2 with Goku and Gohan, and Raditz probably unlocks Super Saiyan 1 during this time period in between the Android saga and the Buu saga. Trunks also probably does as well. And then we have the Buu saga, which was a living Goku means Super Saiyan 3 never happens because his body can't sustain it. And the rest of the arc, though, is mostly the same. Just swap out Vegeta with Raditz, and it's basically the same. I feel like Raditz would still sacrifice himself in a similar way to what Vegeta did, but I don't think he'd knock out Goku in this situation the same way that Vegeta did. Although maybe he would. We could have a similar situation happening, but I also still don't think Raditz would, at this stage, given the development he's had in this version of the storyline, blow up half a stadium. So, yeah, I don't think that ambiguity in terms of his morals is happening the same way that it did with Vegeta, where he was basically just trying to distance himself so that the him sacrificing himself would be less of a shock, I guess, or less of an emotionally damaging situation. But anyways, the sacrifice still probably does happen, and they might end up just bringing Raditz back to life like they did with Vegeta, anyways, in canon. But Vegeta not being there means there's no Vegito, which is slightly disappointing. Or it would be if Raditz wasn't there. So we get Raditz and Goku, basically forming Roku, maybe, or something like that. I don't know what it would be called, their fusion. But Raditz is a little bit weaker, probably, than Vegeta would be at this point. Maybe he'd have unlocked Super Saiyan 2 as well, so maybe they'd be around neck and neck to where he would be in canon. But either way, overall, it would be about the same. The storyline would go for the Buu saga. And yeah, the ending of it, basically the same, likely at least. And yeah, that's about it for Dragon Ball Z. And then Super, I think, would be mostly the same, just swap out Raditz with Vegeta. And yeah, that's about it for this What If. And yeah, if any of you guys got any recommendations for video ideas, please leave them in the comments. And yeah, thanks again for the video recommendation, the worst channel you have ever seen. And yeah, bye guys.